Good evening, good evening. It is yes, it's 9 o'clock on Tuesday the 22nd of April. Where's it going? I hope last week was good. The extended Easter break there, the 4 days off if you had those. I did and did nothing, but there you go. That's what you do, isn't it? I'm joined tonight by Kev from Vapers Place, so I shall introduce him after the titles. We're going to be looking at some US news stories. I've also got some VT that I've pulled out of the archives. You really should go and have a look there because there's some great stuff. And so I shall be bringing you those in the second half of this hour-long show. Yes, I'm doing the hour because there's no DE talk tonight. And it's very disconcerting not having chat up. So I do understand that it's not working. And it's not working everywhere. It's the same in the US as well. Chat roll seems to have died. Someone's fed Horlicks to the donkey who is powering the power station, methinks. Yes, but hopefully it will come back and I can say hello to everybody as I normally do. But until then, let's have these.
Vapor Scene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquid.
And good evening, we are back. Yes, those were the titles, and you're watching Vapor Scene here on Vapourtrails.tv. It is the 22nd of April, yes, and chat roll is still not working. I thought it might have kind of kicked in, you know, after the titles, but it hasn't. But we've got a lot coming up tonight. In part 2, I'm going to have a little look at this. Not the actual thing, unfortunately, but I've got some little pics for you, and I've got a little bit of VT. We can have a look at that. It does look very nice indeed, this new Evic. Not sure about putting a little picture on the display, but you know, there you go. But also tonight I have got with me in the studio, well, not in the studio, but via Skype, Kev from VP Live. Good evening, Kev.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Extremely good, thank you. Hot under these lights as usual, but it's all good. Apologies guys, the Skype connection is a little bit laggy, so you'll see Kev moving sometimes, just not all the time, unfortunately. We're going to be talking about a couple of stories, and one that we covered a few weeks ago, because Kev was tweeting quite a lot yesterday, weren't you, sir?
Yes, I've been actually tweeting every day since that story aired, and I will not stop tweeting until they take back what they said, or put out a retraction or something. So yes, I've been tweeting ever since the story aired.
And this is the story that was on today on NBC News in March with Dr. Nancy Silverman, was it not? Kev. Hello. Might well have lost Kev. I'll put the video up and then I'll bring Kev back and we're going to discuss it. You've seen this before. It's about 4 minutes. Have a little look and then Kev and I are going to blow it to pieces.
Back now with today's health. This morning, alarming news about e-cigarettes and the liquid nicotine used to fill the popular devices. First available in the U.S. in 2007, e-cigarettes are now a $1.5 billion industry. In 2010, approximately 10% of current cigarette smokers had tried them. That number doubled to about 21% in 2011. And they are growing in popularity among younger people. In 2012, close to 2 million middle and high school students had tried them. Dr. Nancy Snyderman is NBC's chief medical editor. Nancy, good morning to you. FDA has no oversight over this industry. You like them in general? Are they safe?
Well, I think the premise, which I really liked at the beginning, was was that nicotine in small doses, which is already found in gum and patches, could perhaps help smokers stop smoking. I don't know that the jury is in yet, that it's gotten people off cigarettes and just onto these nicotine devices. But if I show you something like this, which is a preloaded, looks like a typical cigarette,
right.
You know, the nicotine is already preloaded, you buy it as a done deal. The issue comes in something like this, which has a screw top that you can take off, and then there's a cylinder, and then you can fill this with all kinds of stuff, including flavored nicotine liquid, vanilla, caramel, you name it. And the question is then, does it taste too good? And does it invite kids to try it?
If it's ingested by a young child, if it comes in contact with the skin, can cause problems?
It can cause death. So the California Poison Control Center has said not only can a teaspoon of liquid nicotine that can be found in a small container like this, or up to a liter or a gallon, a teaspoon alone on the skin can cause seizures and death. A tablespoon for adults. So they're advising that if people use these refillable ones, you have to use gloves, and that brings up the toxic hazard.
We reached out to multiple e-cigarette companies for comment. Henley replied with a statement in support of industry-wide regulation aimed at public safety, saying its e-liquids are sold in sealed, child-proof packaging containing warning labels specifically directed at children and pets.
And they're right. And the question is, but what do you do when you get home and these things come undone, and then how casual are parents around the house? And we have to remember, pets sometimes eat the same thing. And while some people in this country are inviting regulation because they want to keep the bad sort of guys on the fringe out, a reminder that there is product coming in from China. And so the nicotine amounts are not only all over the charts, but you have to worry about the fact that while it's a neurotoxin, and we've said, it doesn't cause cancer, it does directly affect the brain. And small concentrations may be fine, but if you don't know what you're getting, it could be deadly.
All right, Nancy, we appreciate the information.
Bet,
Dr. Nancy Snyderman.
So yes, that's what Dr. Nancy was saying back in March that we showed before. And as you heard there, Kev has been tweeting quite a lot since. Tell me some more, dear sir.
Well, I saw this story. Just to let me go back. The Today Show we watch every day. Well, we used to. We watch it. I mean, it's just on in our house every morning. We've been watching it for years, and they've done other stories about electronic cigarettes in the past. And Dr. Nancy Schneiderman has commented on them. And actually, the other stories they have done weren't that bad. She actually said that she found e-cigarettes to be promising, which was good. Then what happened was the Sunday before that story aired, the New York Times put out a horrific piece about deadly e-liquid. And after that, it just was everywhere. The very next morning, they did that piece on the Today Show. Dr. Nancy was making claims that flavored nicotine liquid, if you get it on your finger, it could cause a stroke or death, which is just outrageous. Matt Lauer was making statements like over 2 million high school age kids have tried e-cigarettes. I have no idea where he got that stat from. It was just lie after lie after lie. And it really, really upset me because this is a show that I've watched for years that everybody in this house has watched the show for years. And I couldn't believe they were doing such a horrific slam piece on e-cigarettes. And of course, me being a vapor, I was very offended by the story that they did. And I started tweeting them. I started tweeting every morning. What they do is on the show, and I was doing this because on the show they have a segment called the Orange Room. And what they do is in the Orange Room, they go through various tweets or Facebook posts that have the hashtag Orange Room. So I started tweeting them Orange Room so I would know that they were seeing the tweets. And I'm just outraged. I mean, I think the story need to do a retraction. They absolutely lied during that story. One thing that they did during that story was while they were saying how flavored nicotine e-liquid could cause death or stroke, they're showing a bottle of Henley e-cigs e-liquid, which I was outraged by that. I actually had the owner of Henley e-cigs on my show not too long ago. And from what he was saying, they're thinking about taking legal action, and I think they should because their product was slandered on national television. I'm just disgusted by what they did. They need to retract that story, and I will not stop tweeting until they do something about it. If I have to tweet for the next 10 years, I'll do it. I'm not going to stop because using social networking, as we all know, to get our message out is very effective. And I'm totally outraged by the whole story, and I think it's shameful of NBC and Today's Show to put something out like that. Absolutely shameful.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those shows that is kind of ingrained in the American public, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
It's like our breakfast shows. People watch them, and their kids watch them, and then their kids watch them because they last a long time, and it's something that is kind of ingrained in there, and you have a familiarity, but also a certain amount of respect and trust for. And when they put something out that is blatantly lying, a drop of e-liquid on your skin is going to kill you, can even cause death, is just absolutely ludicrous. You could drink a whole bottle and it'll make you sick, yes. But the thing that a tablespoon of e-liquid, at the strength that most people use it anyway, would probably give you a nasty taste in the mouth, just as if you'd got some, if you sucked them through an atty. Doesn't taste very nice. You spit it out. And that's not euphemism. But yes, not a good state of affairs, that story.
No, it's absolutely terrible. And I know if you ask Dr. Nancy about her statement she made, I'm sure she would say, I was referring to straight nicotine. But she didn't say that. She said flavored nicotine liquid. And they were showing a bottle of e-liquid while she was saying it. She knows exactly what that insinuated. And at some point, I don't know. I think at some point, hopefully Henley's doing something, and I have people retweet me too when I do it, which really helps. I do have a lot of people retweet the tweets when I put them out. Hopefully at some point they're going to see this and say, you know what, we need to do something. There's going to be a point here, at least here in America, where I think media is at some point going to realize there's a lot of people using e-cigarettes out there. And they better think twice before they start doing things to offend us. Because you know what? You're going to say something, you're going to put out lies like that. We're not going to watch your network. We're not going to watch your shows. And I really want people to support that. They really need to do this. I do not watch the Today Show anymore. I will not watch it anymore. They obviously don't like me. They don't like that I'm vaping. They don't like the product I'm using. They're making up lies about it. Therefore, I'm not going to support their show and watch it. And if they realize that there are potentially thousands of e-cigarette users out there that we've offended by doing this piece, and we're actually losing listeners because of it, maybe, just maybe, that might make them think twice before doing more of these slam pieces. It's what's going on here, Mark, for some reason is they keep on pushing safe, safe, safe. We want to know it's safe. No, nothing is safe. Walking across the street's not safe. Driving a car is not safe. Drinking soda is not safe. Life isn't safe. I don't know why they're giving us a standard of nothing else has to be completely 100% safe but e-cigarettes. They have to be 100% safe. It's baffling to me. Absolutely baffling.
Yeah, we have the similar thing over here. It's always, there's two things. There's, is it safe? Is it effective? And is it going to be a gateway product for children? That's what we get all the time. It's think of the children, and is it safe? It's a damn sight safer than smoking a lit tobacco cigarette. And we all know that, and they know that. I just wonder how much of this is being fueled by investors who have got a little bit more leverage, shall we say, choosing my words very carefully. But how much of this is being pushed by people who have money in a network or a program or a company?
Well, this was definitely put out by a PR firm. There's no question in my mind because it was everywhere. It was the same story, and it was everywhere on all the media, newspapers, blogs. It was everywhere. I'm guessing, I can't confirm this. I have no way to confirm this. But when I first saw this story, I really felt like maybe it's Big Tobacco putting this out. Maybe Lorillard is putting this out. Maybe Enjoy's putting this out. Some sort of tobacco-owned e-cigarette company and or e-cigarette company that is just selling stick batteries and pre-filled cartomizers. Maybe there's a fear that we're going to get bottled e-liquid in flavors, that the FDA has decided to let us have that, and they don't want that. That's the last thing in the world they want. But what I'm starting to think now with the events that have happened in the past week is it could even possibly be our friend Ray Story having his PR firm put this out from Teveka, because he seems to be very, very upset with the FDA. And he pulled a stunt last week that was just, I mean, we're all still shocked over it. He claims he has a copy of the regulations. The FDA put out a statement on the FDA website saying pretty much that's not true. So somebody's lying. Is Ray Story lying? I don't know. I think he might possibly have. I think he might possibly have those regulations. He sees that they're going to allow bottled e-liquid and flavors, and he's irate. Because people have to understand, Ray Story and Teveka have been working for years to influence the FDA, to regulate e-cigarettes, to fit their business model. Ray Story owns WannaVape. Thomas Kickless owns InLife. They sell cig-alikes, pre-filled cartomizers, and tobacco and menthol, no flavors. So, of course, they want regulation to fit their business model, and I think it may not be happening, and I think they're irate that it's not happening, hence the stunt that the TVCA pulled last week saying they were going to post the deeming regulations on their website. It's just all fascinating. So for all we know, the TVCA had put that story out to try to scare the masses into thinking that bottled e-liquid was dangerous, and to say, look, why is the FDA allowing such a dangerous product to be on the market? Something's going on. Professor Stanton Glantz has even commented on what he thinks the regulations are going to be. He put out a post, maybe it was yesterday or the day before. He wrote an article about what he speculates the regulations are going to be. And to be honest, I hope he's right, because they sound great to me. They allow flavors and bottled e-liquid, and I'm like, that's wonderful. So there's a lot of people kind of hinting to and there was a story I saw today where they also said they think they're going to allow flavors in bottles. Some people know something. I don't know what they know, but they know something, and I think the media in the past couple days is reflecting what they know, and they shouldn't know anything, because for people to understand over there, the FDA cannot. They can't hand out the regulations to anybody. Nobody should have seen those regulations. If they did, they're going to get in a lot of trouble. There's going to be congressional hearings to find out how it got leaked. It would be the first leak in FDA history.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because in a piece that we're going to play in just a second, where Carson Daly talks to Stanton Glantz, towards the end of that interview, he does have some little insights, doesn't he, that he puts forward.
Yes, he does. And that interview was done, I believe it was last January, like over a year ago that interview was done. It was quite a while ago.
Dave Kitson had a little snippet of it back in February. I've got kind of 3/4 of it. Carson starts by talking about his agent who had given up smoking after 35 years. And he'd gone to e-cigs, but before that he'd gone to like a stop smoking camp. Like a detox camp for a week, and he saw him again, and he was now using e-cigs, and he decided to speak to Mr. Glantz. Shall we put it on? Let's put it on.
Sounds good.
Here it is.
I don't know what the deal with the e-cigarette is, so we got Dr. Stan Glantz on the phone. Dr. Glantz, are you there?
Yes.
Good to have you. You are a professor of medicine and director for the Center of Tobacco Control Research and Prevention at the University of California, San Francisco. You're aware of the e-cigarette, I suppose?
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you could hear my story about Baby Doll, but I did see him. He's quit smoking after 35 years, but he is on the. Are you smoking right now, Dr. Glantz?
No, I had this flu that's going around. You need to keep your finger on the cough button.
Yeah, it's okay. Just give me your minutes on the e-cigarette.
Well, it's kind of the Wild West with these things. They're being promoted with all. Well, first of all, what they are is it's a little battery-operated device that has a vial of a fluid with nicotine and other chemicals in it. And when you suck on it, it flips a little switch which turns on a heater, which vaporizes some of the nicotine solution, and then that's what you breathe in and breathe out.
Right. And
the FDA tried to regulate them as drug delivery devices, which I think the FDA was right. But the e-cigarette industry got a federal judge to agree that they were actually cigarettes. So at the moment, they're not regulated at all. And that's one of the real problems, because there's a lot of claims being made for them, like that they're helpful for smoking cessation, that haven't really been scientifically tested. Another problem, and as Catherine Hagel said, at least as you saw it, that they don't have anything but nicotine in them. That's just not true. They have a lot of other chemicals in them. It's not as much as a conventional cigarette, but there are heavy metals in them. There are carcinogens in them.
Oh, there are.
Oh, yeah. One of the problems with them is there's very poor quality control on them. And so there have been a little bit of research on them, and the actual dose of nicotine they deliver is not very well related to what they claim they deliver. You don't just exhale water vapor, which is another claim they're making. Because
it is pretty odorless and smokeless. I mean, they're pretty benign. If you're sitting there, Jason was smoking one at your house, and he just was taking hits off it and releasing what looked just like. I mean, Letterman smoked one on the air, and it seemed very benign.
Well, it's certainly. I mean, it's
better than a cigarette, right?
Better, yeah, but it is better than a cigarette. But that's sort of like saying it's better not to jump out of the 50th story of a building. A cigarette is a hugely, hugely polluting and highly toxic product. And the concerns that I have with these things is that the manufacturers have not gone to the FDA and submitted the kind of information which would be very easy to get about these issues and have them properly regulated. I mean, if the claims that they're making are true, they would be easy to demonstrate scientifically, and then fine, then people could use them with some confidence. But in any event, they do put pollution into the air, that you do not just exhale water vapor.
They are pollutants.
Yeah. I mean,
what about secondhand smoke? What about the secondhand smoke?
They're less polluting than secondhand smoke. But, right now we've gotten rid of secondhand smoke in most indoor environments. And so...
Are you a proponent for cigarettes? Is this political? I mean, is this the tobacco industry's fight for the almighty consumer's dollar?
Oh, the tobacco companies hate me. They've sued me twice to try to stop our research. It's just, I mean, if the e-cigarette claims turn out to be scientifically documented, which they may, then I think let them be sold in a regulated way. There should be no sales to kids, because they are delivering an addictive drug. They should not be allowed to be used indoors, because while less polluting than a conventional cigarette, they are putting measurable carcinogens and other toxins into the air. And then, fine. I mean, the problem is the little bit of research that's been done on them shows a high level of what's called dual use, which is people using the e-cigarettes and conventional cigarettes at the same time.
Right, that's not a good idea.
No, and so the concern is, I mean, it may well be that they work to help people quit smoking. That's certainly what the e-cigarette manufacturers claim. But it could also be that your friend who managed to stop after going to this clinic starts using e-cigarettes, reconditions himself to nicotine.
I felt that way. It felt like a gateway.
And then bang, they're back to smoking cigarettes.
You know what? That's a good point. Good point. That's what it seemed like. But, as a former smoker, as somebody, you care about somebody who wants to quit smoking, anything, the mindset is this: anything's better than the cigarette. Anything less is better. If you chew, if you dip, I mean, anything's better than smoking that ash.
Well, that's true, but if you actually change, and we've looked at the smokeless products, which have also been promoted as smoking cessation aids, and again, using a smokeless product, while dangerous, is less dangerous than smoking a cigarette. But as these things penetrate the market, what happens is use patterns change, and you end up with a lot of dual use. And so, for example, one of the things that helps smokers quit is the fact that you can't smoke in most places. Well, if people are like restaurants, if restaurants begin to allow e-cigarette use, you could get into a situation where people are smoking conventional cigarettes outside and e-cigarettes inside rather than quitting.
So
and
they'd be smoking more, right? That makes sense. They'd be smoking more because they usually wouldn't be smoking indoors. Now they had the option to do that, so they'd be smoking more than
There's
they did
this weird
before.
sort of promotion of smoking, even with the e-cigarette. Even though it might be better than a conventional cigarette, it doesn't help the overall cause, which the focus should be on
just quitting
in general.
Yeah.
Right, and so
drinking more, like me.
Yeah, what you have to really look at is these large-scale population effects. And again, this is it would not be hard to do at all in terms of doing some scientific research on this. And yet, the e-cigarette companies, we're spending millions and millions of dollars promoting these products, including at mall kiosks where kids can get them, hasn't done the necessary research. And again, some research is very complicated and takes a really long time and is hideously expensive. This kind of study would be very
they're going to the marketplace with language. Well, I don't know if it's legit or not or how they can justify it. Maybe it's the fine print with an asterisk from some independent research that they've done that they can get it out there on, in ads and whatnot. But they do say that vapor liquid that they put in has the traces of nicotine are equal to, small amounts of what we have, for caffeine is their big comparison. So have an e-cigarette, it's like drinking a cup of coffee. It's much better. And you're not going to get cancer. I mean, those are kind of the two hooks they put.
Yeah, well,
but neither of those are necessarily true, is what you're saying.
Right, and the fact is, the Federal Food and Drug Administration and the Federal Trade Commission have jurisdiction over false advertising, and I think at this point in time, those claims are false. The claim that an e-cigarette could help people quit smoking is testable. If it could, you could do a study in less than a year to demonstrate that or test that. If that, a good study. But these other claims that there's nothing but nicotine in them, that people use them or just exhaling water vapor, those have already been demonstrated to be false, and they need to stop making those claims.
But doctor, let me bring
it
back.
The Obama administration needs to enforce the law. They're actually, by making these claims, and we just put in a big submission to the FDA on this point a couple of weeks ago, they're breaking the law, and the FDA is a law enforcement agency. Should enforce the law.
Let me bring it back to Baby Doll. He's got three choices. He can quit smoking and never smoke anything again, would be ideal. The second scenario would be he smokes e-cigarettes for the rest of his life and doesn't go back to conventional cigarettes. That's B. C is this e-cigarette acts as a reverse gateway and brings him back to his evil habit, and he leaves them and goes back to smoking conventional cigarettes. I'll take that plan B every time, right?
Well, if Plan B turns out to be what happens for most people, that's the thing. That's the thing we don't know.
It hasn't been around long enough.
True. Well, it hasn't been properly studied. We don't know if B is true or C is true.
Right.
We know with smokeless tobacco, there have been really big studies now that show that it's C.
Oh, that's not good.
They go back.
Gateway to go back to smoking.
Or a bridge.
Yeah, that's kind of that was in my gut when I saw him smoking the e-cigarette. I thought, oh no, this is just going to bring him right back.
Right,
to
you got
circle.
that habit going back. Yeah.
Dr. Glantz, thank you very much. We appreciate your insight. Are you for the legalization of pot?
Well, that's a whole different...
All right, I got
Well, let's put it this way. The war on drugs has been a public health disaster. But if we ended up with Philip Morris using, applying the same technology to joints that we have with cigarettes and the same kind of modern aggressive marketing, that would be a disaster. So I think the issue there is how do you decriminalize it without creating,
a market.
Another market, of tobacco.
But wouldn't you love to monetize it to get us out of our California debt issue? But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other show. Dr. Stan Glantz, I appreciate your time. Hope you feel better. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
The most music every hour with Carson Daly, 97.1 Amp Radio.
Yes, so that was Carson Daly talking to Stan Glantz, PhD, about e-cigarettes, and then towards the end there about cannabis, which is, another story. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the ads, and then Kev and I are going to discuss that. So where's the ads? There they are. We will see you in 2 minutes. Go and get something strong.
Vapor Scene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquid.
iVaper and iVaper Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iVaper.co.uk and iVaper-elixir.co.uk. iVaper and iVaper-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of Vapourtrails.tv.
Now it's back to Vapor Scene on Vapourtrails TV. Vapor Scene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquid.
And yes, welcome back to part 2 of this week's Vapor Scene. And you heard there before the break Carson Daly talking to Stanton Glantz about e-cigs. I'm going to go across to Kevin now, because I know he's got something to say. Kevin.
Yeah, real quick before I continue, I just want to say that what I'm talking about here tonight are my personal opinions. Okay, they are not the opinions of Vapor Talk. They are not the opinions of Mr. Dorn, Mr. Kitson, Kat Sav, Thomas from DE Talk, Mark, and anybody else I may be forgetting. Even Tim from R-Rifle Radio. These are just my personal opinions, so I just wanted to set that straight but before we continue.
Yeah, thanks very much. So what's your take on Mr. Glantz? It seemed at the end of that conversation he was talking about the FDA regulations, and it was almost like he knows what's coming. What do you think?
I think, I don't know back then if he knew what was coming, but I think now he knows what's coming. I think quite a few people know what's coming, and it's just outrageous if people do, because the only people that should know what's coming is the FDA. But when I saw the Carson Daly piece, when I first heard it, the most outrageous thing to me was the title of the piece, which is "Are Electronic Cigarettes Safe? Carson Daly Asks an Expert." An expert. Professor Glantz is far from an expert. What I got out of that piece was Carson Daly already had his views on what electronic cigarettes were. He already didn't like them. He already thought they were bad. He already thought, pretty much, he just wanted somebody to come on his show and just justify what he thought. Hence, Stanton Glantz. You couldn't come up with a better person to, completely lie and trash e-cigarettes. So I think he just wanted somebody to come on and confirm his thoughts of e-cigarettes are bad and they're dangerous and nobody should use them and blah, blah, blah. That's why I was outraged by the Carson Daly piece. I did start tweeting Carson Daly. I started doing a Twitter campaign when that piece came out, tweeting him and Amp Radio, because I feel Amp Radio is responsible as well for letting him put those lies out there. That went on for a while, and then it stopped until September. I started tweeting Carson Daly again in September because he was now on the Today Show, which outraged me because I loved the Today Show and I couldn't believe they were allowing Carson Daly to be on. So I started tweeting him again every day. Fire Carson Daly. He hates e-cig users. They need to fire, anything. Fire Carson Daly. Fire Carson Daly. He lies, blah, blah, blah. Tweeting everything I can. actually a few months of tweeting, he actually did respond to one of my tweets. And what he said to me was, it was something to the effect of, hey, come on, let me take you out and buy you a beer. Like, hey, I want to be your friend. Let me buy you a beer. Which I tweeted back, I don't want a beer. I want you to, retract your lies that you put out on your radio show. I mean, that's a syndicated radio show. That was heard in many states across the country. Think about how many people were vaping, were using e-cigarettes at that point, and heard that story and went, oh my God, I didn't know all this. Well, I'm just going to stop using this, and just went right back to smoking. I don't think they realize when they're doing these pieces that they're doing that. And that is happening. You have people out there that don't follow our community. They just go, they buy, say, a blue cig at the Walgreens or some local pharmacy or at a local convenience store. They start vaping. It works for them. Then they hear people like Carson Daly saying, and Professor Glantz going, oh my God, they're dangerous, and they have heavy metals and toxic chemicals, and they go, oh my God, well, I better stop using this. So what are they going to do if they're not using the e-cigarette anymore? They're going to go right back to smoking. They're actually driving people back to smoking by doing that. It just outrages me. So I've been on a Twitter campaign with Carson Daly since September. I'm not going to stop, and I'm even thinking of going to the Today Show, because in the morning they have the Today Show guests go outside and film segments outside that are live. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of going there with a bunch of vapors and us holding up a bunch of signs saying Carson Daly hates vapors. The Today Show hates vapors. Why do you want us to smoke again? Just to completely embarrass them. It's something that they won't be able to edit out. It's live TV. And maybe they'll think, geez, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Maybe they will start retracting stories. And what makes me sick, too, Mark, is Carson Daly's a former smoker. You think he would be for anything that keep people off cigarettes? Nope. Apparently not.
Yeah, I heard on that he was a smoker before. And you'd think he'd be more happy because his good friend and agent who smoked for 35 years had given up and was using e-cigs. And he seemed to really want to put the complete opposite across, which I kind of got from that piece as well. And someone's mentioned in chat earlier on who the lady was, and apparently she's like his sidekick on the radio station in the mornings. We have a show on the BBC, which is live, and it's got a glass wall. Well, it's windows at the back, so you can see people. And that would be the kind of thing as well for us would be to, if we wanted to do protest so it could be seen. I'm sure you'd be pushed as far back from the windows as humanly possible by security, or asked to move on if it's the station's property. But if you're on a public highway, there's nothing they can do, is there? No, and that's the thing. In New York, the way the Today Show is set up, it's set up on a public street. We could stand there and do whatever we want. I mean, they do the same thing here, too. They actually film segments where you could see the outside and people walking by. By doing this, will they retract the story that they did? No. But you know what? If we do stuff like this, they will think again before they do another negative e-cigarette piece. They will think, oh, no, we don't want this kind of havoc. If they're getting slammed on social media, if we're showing up at these TV stations and interrupting their broadcast, they're going to think twice. Greg Conley did the most wonderful thing a couple weeks ago. Senator Blumenthal had a press conference here, and the press conference was about keeping e-cigarettes out of the hands of children, and wanting a law to prohibit the sale of e-cigarettes to anybody 18 and under. But he also wanted to go on about how flavors and the flavors are attracting children, and then he wanted to talk about advertising e-cigarettes and how that's wrong. So Greg Connolly and this gentleman George Bouton, I never even think to do this. They showed up at the press conference and they completely ruined it. They started yelling things at Senator Blumenthal. I mean, it just turned into a circus. And it was very effective. It worked. They ruined that press conference for Senator Blumenthal. And in fact, only one television station here in Connecticut actually showed the press conference. They cut out the part where Greg and George jumped in, but all the rest of the stations didn't even show it. So it worked. It was very effective. If any politicians, anybody out there in the UK, if they're going to be doing news stories like that, or they're going to be doing press conferences, I should say, go and interrupt them. Go and yell at them. Why do you want me to smoke again? Why do you want me to start smoking cigarettes again? Why do you not? I mean, anything just to ruin. And again,
I'll tell you what, I don't think Blumenthal's ever going to do a press conference here again. I think it really messed him up. And we need to start doing things like that. It's effective. It's effective, and it works, and it makes them think twice before they start spewing lies about what we're doing.
I think what we're seeing worldwide now, Australia has gone for bans. Europe, we're still kind of in the throes of the final death throes of the Tobacco Products Directive, and then that becoming law in this country. And I've seen that particular action from Senator Blumenthal, seen his legislation he wants to put forward, and we're getting similar stories from across the globe. And what we need to be is a global force. Then we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, and we're all doing what we can to show the politicians and also the media that we're not going away. We don't want to go back to using lit tobacco. We want to be able to continue using vaping as our method of inhalation of nicotine without the ridiculous legislation that they're trying to force on us.
Yes, it is a global problem. The last show I did, I had the gentleman on from Australia who's being prosecuted for selling electronic cigarettes. And, someone asked me why. I said, because we all need to be worried about that. Australia potentially could be the first country to do a complete ban on electronic cigarettes. We all need to watch that. That's scary. That will in some way affect all of us. We can't let that happen. This poor guy, that he's broke between legal fees and trying to fight. This poor guy went to court, he won, and then they appealed the decision and he lost. And he could potentially be fined. They confiscated, he said, 60 e-cigarettes. He could be fined $10,000 for every e-cigarette that was confiscated. That's outrageous. Yeah. It's unbelievable. We all need to watch this, and we all need to pay attention to this, because other countries do look at this stuff, and this could affect us.
Yeah, and I think that is what is happening, across the globe. Certain countries are taking certain stance, and then other countries are then following suit. And if we all stand, then maybe we've got a chance. But if we don't, then maybe we don't, eh?
I agree. I absolutely agree. We have to. We don't have a choice. This is going to go on for a while. I mean, this is not going to stop. Gray Connolly jokingly says we should be good about 2020. And, but realistically, this is going to go on for quite a while until regulations are set worldwide and we know what they are, and everything is done. We're not done. We have to fight. And believe me, fighting is effective, because I'll tell you something right now. If we didn't fight all these years, if we haven't been fighting, I can guarantee you that in every country this would have been regulated as a medical device. Big pharmaceutical would have had their hands all over it, and there would have been none of this. This all would have been gone. It would have been taken away. It's not because we fought.
Yeah, agreed. The work that we've done as a community across the world so far has got us to where we are now. We've still got a long way to go, obviously. But if we all keep fighting and all keep using the social media and tweeting and protesting when we can in places where we can get to, then maybe we'll have a chance. Maybe. Well, thanks for your insight on that one. It was an interesting conversation with Mr. Gallant, I must say. I'm going to lighten the mood now. I've been looking at the Vapourtrails TV archives. And it's something that you should really do. You go to our V player or look at the YouTube channel, and you'll see lots of amazing bits and nuggets. And what I'm going to do is lighten it up now with a little video that I found from Mr. Andy Sutton. And when I find it, it's here somewhere. I'll put it on. Here we go. This is Andy Sutton doing a bit of cooking. Yeah. You can watch this as well. Watch it as well, Kev. It's very good. See you in a few minutes.
I love
Hello, I'm your chef Andy here, Smoke to Vape. I will be cooking up a delightful dish for you in my kitchen tonight. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to be boiling some atomizers. So yes, you've got an atomizer that you've really liked in the past, it's just not performing. What can you do? Well, you know, we all go through that, and when I started vaping, I would pretty much blow out my atomizers and boil them every single night. It was only with a bit of experience that I learnt, you know, you don't really need to do that. If you blow it out, it gives back pretty much all the flavour and everything straight away. Over time though, as I'm discovering, occasionally blowing out an atomizer isn't enough. So what more can you do? Well, I personally, and this is my personal sort of experience of cleaning my atomizers, I boil the ones that aren't performing. It's not to punish them, it's just to try and breathe life back into them. So, you know, please feel free to try what I try, but I have had a couple die. Because these are ones that are reaching the end of their natural life anyway, and you know, they don't feel any pain, but you might lose an atomizer. Don't blame me, basically. I'm just running you through what I do, and it does help. I find it helps. Anyway, so I've got my box of atomizers here. Must be about 20 in here, different types, 306s, 510s. I've got my de-wicked tank atomizer in here as well. So, let's get boiling. So obviously I'm not going to show you how to boil water. I use a kettle. Then I put the boiling water in the pan, stick it on the hob, and well, let me walk you through it. The kettle's now boiled, and I'm going to leave that alone now for a second. I'm going to get my atomizers. These are all, as I said, these are all the ones that really, you know, are on their way out. So if I can breathe new life into these, great. Right, so got my atomizers, I've got the pan, and all I do, very simple, is I put the atomizers in the pan, but I stand them up. I just put them all in. And I normally put them connector down. Just to reiterate, these are the atomizers that, you know, are past their best. You know, even these, this is a Cisco 1.50 510, and after a certain amount of time, you know, you do. I find I need to sort of cleanse them, and this is the way I do it. So there we go, my little container is empty. Okay, so now for some boiling water. I'm guaranteed some of the atomizers will fall over. There we go. And I just tend to fill them up. I tend to fill the pan up just over the top of them. Obviously I've got a large tank atomizer in here, so I'm going to put quite a lot of water in. The other camera's steamed up.
I'm going to boil them.
Looking in there now, most of the atomizers have fallen over. It's been boiling for a good 10 minutes. The water is really yucky and disgusting, so it's certainly getting the juice out of the atomizers and hopefully sort of returning them to new. Right, here they are. Smells lovely. I'm now just going to pull the water out and drain them. As a little health and safety note, when you've boiled an atomizer, they are made of metal. I mean, they're still made, you know, they're made of metal. So the boiling heats them up. Don't go picking them up straight away. They are hot. So the atomizers have had 10 minutes to dry out and to cool down. They do look dry, but they're not. You will discover that these are full of water. Yes. They soak in juice, they soak in water. So sitting inside the cup or in the coil or in the wick, full of water. So what I do is I blow them out until they stop making that gurgly noise, and then put them to one side and keep going. When they're all done, I'll stick them on the radiator. All told, this whole process probably takes about half an hour. The 510s really do need to be blown out, which is what I'm doing at the moment. The 306s, some say you can just blow them out. Make sure they're actually dry, make sure there's no water in them, and then give them a dry burn, which will in turn dry them out as well. Now, tank atomizers, they've obviously got an internal sort of reservoir, sort of gap between the metal top bit and the coil, so these may take a little longer to dry out. Some people also say you can do the same boiling technique with cartomizers. Personally, I boiled a couple and I couldn't get them to dry no matter what I did. You know, the foam filler was still wet, and vaping a wet atomizer isn't fun. Couple more to go. So there we go, that's what I pretty much do. Now I'll take those atomizers and stick them on a radiator. I have tried other ways of drying them out, but nothing is quite successful as sort of like 24 hours or even 8 hours on a radiator that is on. The down point of that is that it's quite warm now, and we've got to put the radiators on just to dry out my atomizers. Anyway, like I say, I have tried putting them in the airing cupboard, but they've come out in the morning, they've still got water in them. So when I really want to boil something, I put it in. Ow.
And that, my friends, was Mr. Sutton in the kitchen boiling atties. And I was just watching chat roll past there as that was playing out. Not something we tend to do these days. But like I said, I was having a little look through our archives, and I pulled out a couple of choice videos. I do have another one, but I'm going to save it for next week because I can see the time and it's 8 minutes to 10. So I've got a couple more stories I'd like to get through beforehand. And I've also got the little look at that Evic Supreme, which is just pictures, unfortunately. I don't have the actual item itself, wish I did. Hopefully I'll have one in June when they come out, yeah. And then I can have a little play with it. But I've got a little story here from the Daily Mail, which I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to ask Kev what happens in the States in these cases. And it is this story, and it's a primary school boy, just 9, begs the NHS to help him kick smoking habit after he became addicted from trying one at school. The youngster from Shropshire was addicted after trying a cigarette at school. However, he called a stop smoking helpline after realising side effects. And the experts are warning underage smokers will have terrible health problems. And it goes on. The helpline, which is run by Shropshire Community NHS Trust, is a free stop smoking service which says that you are 4 times more likely to quit with our help than if you attempt to stop smoking on your own. Maybe they should give them an e-cig. Experts are warning that underage smokers will have terrible health problems in later life, but their decision to seek professional help is a new phenomenon. And yes, I guess it is a new phenomenon, because if you're smoking at 9 these days, we all know that certain people, especially some people in chat, were smoking around about that age. I didn't really start smoking until I was about 14, but then, you know, I've had 30 years. Apart from the last 2.5 that I've been vaping, smoking kind of on and off. I had a 5-year spell where I gave up, but went back on them again for another 15 years. So yes, we all know that if you start young and carry on through the rest of your life, then you will end up with problems. And we know that 1 in every 2 smokers do die a premature death. So all the better for not lambasting vaping on various shows, isn't it? What do you have over there in the States for kids that are smoking, Kev? I know some of it's pretty extreme.
Really, they just put on, pretty much they just tried to scare kids from using cigarettes. They have this one ad that airs constantly here in the States. It's this woman who has, I believe she has cancer. She's dying from cancer. She has no hair, so she has to put on a wig. She has to use a voice box, so she has this thing she has to put in her throat. I mean, she probably weighs not but 90 pounds. I mean, she just looks in completely terrible shape. So they show that commercial probably 20 times a day on just about every TV station here. I know when I was a kid, they kind of did the same thing. When I was in the 8th grade, they sent somebody to our school. They sent somebody who they were trying to educate us on chewing tobacco, and this guy was missing like part of his face, and he said he lost it from chewing tobacco. Then they had this woman come on, kind of the same deal as the woman on the commercial. She had a voice box to speak. She looked very thin. She looked a mess. I think they're just trying to scare teens from smoking, and it's not working. It's just not working. It's not effective at all. And for the 9-year-old that you were speaking of, listen, I guess what they're saying is he was addicted to the nicotine. Hand that boy an e-cigarette. Wean him off. You know, give him 24 milligram, give him 12 milligram, give him 8 milligram. Wean him off the nicotine. Then boom, he's done. All set. I mean, that I think that's a pretty good solution. But yeah, here in the States, they just pretty much use scare tactics that just aren't effective at all. They just don't work.
Yeah, we do have adverts over here depicting cigarettes full of fat and kind of bursting out with tumours, and every cigarette you take creates tumours and, transmognifies your cells and all that stuff. There's only so far that they can go in the UK with visual adverts. And then, of course, there's the pictures of dead lungs and what have you on cigarette packs, which are still going to be there. And if everything goes ahead, the plain packaging with the nasty images will still be on the packs of cigarettes. However, it's still not going to stop people from wanting to go and buy cigarettes should they wish to. And the thing that all of us agree on is that we don't think that vaping should be any less available than traditional cigarettes.
Right. And I think the problem, too, is it's really the same, I think, with alcohol and teenagers as well. You know, alcohol and cigarettes is something you shouldn't do. They tell us you shouldn't do that. You have to be 18 years old to do that. You have to be 21 or over to drink. And that just makes teens want to do it, to be honest. It's I know when I was young, I started smoking, I think I was 15 years old when I started smoking. And again, that's what all the cool kids were doing. We wanted to do what we weren't supposed to be doing, and that was it, smoking and drinking. I don't know how you combat that. I mean, I know there's countries where, for instance, they don't have a drinking age, and teen drinking doesn't seem to be a problem. That's very telling.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Europe, they don't seem to have the binge drinking problems that we have in the UK. Because bars are open for longer, alcohol is available in more places. You go to the continent in Europe and you go to a Burger King or a McDonald's, go to the Paris McDonald's on the Champs-Elysees, you can get a Big Mac and a beer, or KFC, you can get a beer, or vending machines in communal public areas. You can buy a can of 7-Up or a can of Sprite or a can of Coke or a can of beer. Other brands are of course available, but yes, it seems it's just a weirdness on alcohol and on smoking, and we all agree that overindulgence in both of those things is not good for you, but I don't think we need to have it rammed down our throats, do we?
No, absolutely not. And we need to find another way if we want to keep kids off cigarettes and alcohol both. find another effective way, because what we're doing is not working. It's just simply not working. It hasn't been effective for years. It's not going to be effective. So what the answer is to that, I really don't know. But we need to realize that it's not working. The scare tactics they're using to keep kids off tobacco is simply not working.
No.
So
yeah, no.
How we do that, who knows?
Definitely not working. Well, listen, it's 10 o'clock. Right? Time is almost upon us. So before I close the show tonight, I'm going to show you the little Evic bits and pieces, because I did promise it, and I don't like not putting out what I promised. So here's a little video that I got off the Joytech website, and I've got a few little pictures for you as well. Have a little look. I want one of these things. They look
I'm just
nice,
looking about it now. I didn't even know.
Well,
this
Kev's
was...
getting the video a little bit later than you guys are, and obviously it goes out from me, and then there's probably about a 40-second delay. Yeah, I've got some pictures from the website in a couple of different colours there, the old stainless and the black, and it promises a stronger output wattage, up to 30 watts max out. And an atomizer resistance from 0.5 to 5 ohms. And the weird thing is that you can upload a picture onto the screen, and it will show at 64 by 128 in black and white, should you wish to do that. The other things that are there, there's going to be a replaceable 510 connection on the top. If the threads do get crossed, you can take it off and put a new one on. As well as the larger control head, and yes, it looks very nice indeed, I have to say, and I shall be doing what I can to get hold of one, so we can have a closer look. We've also redesigned the My Vaping software as well, which looks rather interesting, and bearing in mind that I've dropped my Evic V1 so many times it needs gluing, and I'm sure a lot of people in chat have as well. Yes, I could well do the new one, and I hope, as someone said in chat there, that the battery connector, the battery tube, is the same threading, because it'd be nice to use the lovely stainless steel one that I got from Spain. The one that was designed by, I can't remember who it was, but it is, oh, if I reach over there, outshot, that one, yeah, which I rather like, and it was much better than the one that came with the original Evic. And I hope also that they have solved the issue where you put it down too hard and it knocks the power off, so maybe a harder, tighter spring would be more applicable there. Yeah. Anyway, watch this space. If I get any more information, then I will certainly pass it on. There's also it's about an 11-minute video on it. If you look at the Joytech YouTube, if you just Google the Evic Supreme or the Evic S, you can see that. I do have it, but it's 11 minutes long. So have a look at that offline. So it just remains for me to say thank you so much to Kev for coming on tonight from the States.
Thank you for having me. I love coming on Vapourtrails. I say that if you want to learn about the latest, greatest products, you got to watch Vapourtrails.
Absolutely. And it just happens to be that now Skype is playing up, and it's a bit choppy. So thank you so much to Kev for popping on. I must just say before we go that there is a vape meet on the 27th of April. It's this Sunday. And it's at the Three-Legged Mare on High Petergate in York. Steve from AAEC and sent me that yesterday. Thank you very much for that, Steve. Unfortunately, I'm up in Scotland the rest of the week, and then I'm in Birmingham on Saturday, so probably won't be able to get to that myself, but I wish I could. Maybe I can make the next one, who knows. And then don't forget, tomorrow night, he's back. Well, they're back. Yes, Mr. Dibley and Mr. Jones are back with Tin Your Tip in its new slot of 9 o'clock on Wednesdays. Thursday, of course, it's VT Talk with Dave and Sav, plus guests. And Sunday, Dave's Taco Box with Mr. Kitson, and more than likely Mr. Dawn. Monday, of course, it's the Haze Hour with Dave and Kat and Keith. And I will be back next Tuesday for a shorter Vapor Scene. Thanks for watching, guys. Apologies that Chatroll crashed on us. Nothing we could do about that, unfortunately, because it was at Chatroll's end. But until I see you next time, or until you see me next time, ta-ta for now. Bye-bye.
Vapor Scene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquid.